Hi, and welcome to the very first edition of the Conscious Community Conversation with Tia Woods. And this conversation today is very special. Tia is a friend of mine. I have known her for over 3 years, or at 3 years, and she is also a cognitive movement practitioner. And her daughter Bowie has been diagnosed with Angelmans Syndrome. So we'll be discussing that in depth, and the intention behind this interview is to perhaps give hope to those who are just entering into this journey of a loved one being diagnosed with Angelman's, or perhaps there are other steps or actions that can be taken to improve whatever it is. So, with that, welcome, Tia. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
Oh, I'm getting the willies out. Here we go. Not that nervous, but just happy to be here. Happy to be doing this and bringing this kind of content in a just conversation way to see wherever it goes. So I'm grateful that you said yes. And so we'll go ahead and start off. What is the definition, or what is Angelman syndrome?
Okay, so you'd think I'd be well practiced at saying this because I've probably said it 1,000 times, as any Angelman's mother would have explained and said. However, depending on your perspective of the date, changes. So, what it is, from a science background, is a chromosome 15 either deletion within a gene. So at that address of chromosome 15, there's some genes in there that can be deleted, they can be cracked, they can be mutated, missing. Normally it's one that, and I had to bring it up because it's something like UB3, and I'm going to tell you correctly because I always forget, and it's UBE3A gene. Okay. I don't know if it's selective memory that I forget, but that's, it's sort of like the address. So chromosome 15 is the suburb, and the gene missing is the letterbox number. So for Bowie, she has 2 gene deletions, which is interesting. And I do know someone that's got a mutation, so that's like a jigsaw.
Okay. And when you received the diagnosis, you've of course researched it right after. What was that like? I can't imagine.
I'll be perfectly honest, I did not research it. I refused to. And but my husband did, and he knew what it was. So my husband knew straight away what it was because I always forget this actor's name. Colin Farrell has a daughter with Angelman's syndrome. Yes, so
okay.
He's the ambassador for Angelman's research. So
what led up to you going to get the diet, to figure out like, hey, something's different or something might not be, or you didn't know, it was just at a regular appointment and it was discovered?
Honestly, it's probably every parent's worst fear and nightmare. And even though it might be at the back of your mind, you tell yourself you're just making up stories, because every parent sort of has, or every person has worst case scenarios, right? But Bowie was, like every other baby, well, not every other baby, but, you and I know, a colicky baby, a screaming baby. But I just knew something was wrong. She was, very anaphylactic to dairy. So that was a struggle. And right up until 19 months, from some point when she sort of tried to start walking, which was she didn't actually walk till 7 years of age, but she sort of started to crawl and try and crawl, but she dragged her left leg and she dragged her left side was gone. I was like, something's not right, but she was very happy. And this is the thing with Angelman's babies, they're very, very happy and cuddly and just a delight, apart from bedtime. So she had this strange foot, this ankle that seemed to flop around and turn out. I literally think if it didn't have skin, it would have been able to go around in circles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and a really dear friend of mine, I I went to a mother's group with a different mother's group. And because I very much spent a lot of time on my own, I suddenly saw other babies that were 16 months old coming up to 18 months old. I'm like, mine's nothing like that. While she makes eye contact and she's cute and smiles, there's something just, it's not right. And my dearest friend was so gentle with me. She said, I'd get it looked at.
Yeah.
Whereas off I went to, I think that, I don't know what they're called here. They're like the baby nurse. They look after you when you just had your baby and you join a mother's group. And I took her to her and she went, right. And she walked me down to the doctors. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to panic here. And she said, there's something wrong with her left side. She's got a crooked smile. The eye was a bit droopy. And I'm like, this just does not sound good. I got a referral and it sort of went from there. I went to a pediatrician and she sent away tests and it was really lucky at that time that they could get a blood test from Bowie because she didn't know any different. But from this day on, you'll never get blood from that kid. Never. So it was a microarray. It's called a microarray test. And it's the most thorough test you can get. So off it went. And I mean, the whole thing was very dramatic and horrible, to be honest. She rang back and she said, look, it's all come back fine. She said she's got extreme hypermobility and probably global developmental delay. Oh, it's like, whew, thank goodness, I can fix this. I can fix that. Nutrition and diet and everything. Okay, hypermobility. And I knew a bit about that because I'm a little bit hypermobile and so is Dan. So I was like, okay, this is good. She couldn't stand. She said that's why she can't stand and why she gets tired so easily. So that was great. About 3 days later, we get a phone call from a physio going, the pediatrician's trying to get in touch with you and there's something happened. And I rang the pediatrician and it was all drama. She said, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this. Could you come in? There's a chromosome issue. And so for 24 hours, my husband and I were beside ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame the woman. When I spoke to a friend, he gave me a whole new perspective on it because we went in and she said, she grabs this box of tissues. And I hope no one else's experiences like this. I think I'm laughing now at how absurd it was. She gets a box of tissues and she says, now sit down, you're going to need these. I'm like, who starts a conversation like that? But I get it. And then she told us that Bowie had Angelmans and explained it. Dan knew what it was. I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And when I came home, Dan's like, it's okay. So Bowie's going to live with us forever, and I'm okay with that because it doesn't change anything.
What did you notice changed after the diagnosis versus the week before? You know what I mean? Like, did it change how you parented? Did it change? Or, I mean, obviously it probably did, but what were the changes you noticed from receiving the diagnosis versus before?
Look, in the pediatrician's defense, thank goodness she said, oh, she might be high functioning because I'm very surprised. So I clung to that. My denial was pretty good. What I did decide right then and there was, I'm going to heal the symptoms. Bowie is not a syndrome. I just decided, right, this kid's not a syndrome. She's Bowie. She's Bowie Malone Woods, and that's who she will stay forever. And I'm going to look at the symptoms and heal those. I knew heal the mother, heal the child. I knew that the journey was going to be about as much me as it was her.
Right.
What I wasn't prepared for was how stubborn I am, how much I clung to all my past.
Yeah. And how old is Bowie today? How old is Bowie?
Oh, she's 12.
So she's 12. And what kind of activities is she doing these days? What does she, and how is her foot?
Oh, so we're still working on her foot, and that's actually my focus at the moment is, and I know I've done work with you. We did a 6-week course on abundance, and my goal was for Bowie to run at the end of the year. Because when you're a special needs parent, you don't want $1 million and, riches and wealth and jewels and all those things don't really matter. What you want is for your child to be the best that they can be, and to have what they were meant to have. So she walks, she kicks a ball like a pro. And when I say kick a ball, and this is where it gets a bit confusing, she's not out there kicking a ball on one foot because she can't stand on one foot, but she's dribbling it with her feet, and she's following it wherever it goes. But that's fabulous. I mean, it's so exciting, and we're just like, yay, look at this, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I was like, oh, she could play soccer. And then she picks the ball up, and I'm like, you're not supposed to pick the ball up with soccer.
For you, go right ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You just run with it.
She does horseback riding too, doesn't she? And other things as well.
Oh, honestly, she blows my mind. The capabilities of these children are only in the perimeters we set up ourselves. And that was one of my earliest lessons and thoughts was I have to let other people do things with her because I don't know what I don't know. I might set her up to fail out of safety. We need to break through the glass ceilings that I have as well. So she used to go to horse riding with someone else, and because I couldn't go, I'd freak out. I was like, oh my goodness. Because one of the things with hypermobility and Angelmans and lots of when they can't balance is they fall a lot. So with all the falls and the head knocks and hurts and owies, I was just beside myself for horse riding. So someone else took her. She did great. And when that person could no longer take her, I went along after 6 months. And the lady who takes it, she has a special needs son, and she has lots of special needs in her family as well. And she's like, go and look at the kittens. I've got kittens. Go look at the kittens.
No, for you to go look at the kittens.
Like,
right.
Really? Okay. And I didn't click to a few weeks later. She was like trying to distract me because I was like, probably getting in the way.
Right.
And I stood there with my mouth open. My child is riding a horse, sitting on that horse with a straight back, and she's doing all the little exercises like reaching into a letterbox, taking a hook, a rope off a pole. She could trot. I mean, it blew my mind. And I'm like, never in a million years would I think my child could sit on a horse and, well, first of all, enjoy it and not try to leap off, because this is one of the things is they'll just go, need to get off now.
Okay, right. But she's able to keep the frame of what's happening in sequence, and so she knows that's dangerous. Obviously, she has feedback,
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And so it's just wonderful. It's great. Yes, she does horseback riding and plays with the ball. She's got lots of hobbies in her that we probably don't know about.
Right, and that'll come, and that will come as time goes on. So a little bit rewinding, I guess, 3 years ago, because 3 years ago is when you started using the modality called cognitive movement.
Mm-hmm.
When you started in that healing aspect, or adding that into the already healing journey that you were on, because you were always for yourself and Bowie and Dan, you're always doing things. What did you notice shifted with Bowie? When you started doing work on you, what did you notice shifted with Bowie?
She was a lot calmer, for sure. A lot more awake. And that is one of the things, even with children with autism and anyone with special needs, they check out a lot. They're like, hello, hello. Now, what I never heard of was, there's a lot of terms that are buzzwords now, like disassociation. I'd never heard of that until I started cognitive movement and until I started doing sessions with you. I was like, hey, I'm not checking out so much. And Bowie wasn't checking out so much, because my nervous system was so overwhelmed that I guess you'd just be gone. And so would she. So she got a lot calmer. We had a lot more fun. She's a lot steadier on her feet. I was able to give her a lot more therapies. She actually became more resilient, if that's the right word, able to walk. What I noticed is some new pathways in her brain firing off, starting to make new connections again, which was fabulous, and just picking up new skills in terms of communication. So,
well, speaking of communication, you also, with Cognitive Movement, worked with one of the practitioners who's a speech pathologist, Colby. And what was it? It just happened where, for the first time, she typed.
Oh, she is starting to use words on her iPad. So she's using a speech app, which is fabulous. And one of the funniest things that happened, we've always followed Bowie's lead, was introducing her to things. Now, I always think we're a bit old and boring and we don't do much. So what are we going to introduce her to? But she likes to do what we like to do as well. So 2 years ago, we got our first speechy, and she recommended this speech app. Well, Bowie wasn't interested. No one wanted to use it. No one could understand it. It just went away. A year later, we got a different speechy, and she said, okay, well, let's go back to pushing buttons and little cards. She's past that. She's not, she's intelligent. She's not going to use these little picture cards. She'll actually eat them.
Okay.
Or rip them. She's not interested.
She can see what they mean, but she might have them for lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then this other speech, she decided to get this very, very basic, and no disrespect to her. She was just going with what she could see.
Right.
And just in the first sort of 2 meetings. So it was so basic. And Bowie gets her iPad, finds the old app, and starts using it.
Yeah.
And she's pushing backpack and school and car. I want to go. And I'm like, okay, so your receptive language is incredible. And I said to her, do you know this? Yes, yes, yes. It's up to me to use it more. And Colby has been incredible in helping me figure out how to use it, doing cognitive movement sessions on breaking through my barriers of using it. And of course, you and I have done 3 years of cognitive movement together, of helping clear all the trauma, the guilt, oh my God, the emotional roller coaster, the guilt of being a special needs mum, of
how is that, the guilt of, because I know that's probably with many diagnoses or many things that people say, syndromes, or like there is a level of guilt, and there's mom guilt anyways. What has that been like for you, this guilt in the Angelmans?
Oh gosh, it's overriding. I mean, when I remember a friend said, phone me after the initial diagnosis, I was literally sobbing on the ground. My heart was breaking. And I was like, oh, this is what a broken heart feels like. And the guilt clicked in then. And know what guilt feels like because you've probably experienced it all your life, so it's heavy and it holds you back. This is the thing. It's like those emotions, those low emotions need to be cleared from your field, but cleared and so that you get new perspectives.
And when you say cleared, you mean, so people who may not know what cognitive movement is, the guilt, it's the feeling of the guilt. And
yeah.
there's layers to it. And you can focus on the guilt of of having some play into the Angelmans Syndrome or some, you know what I mean? Because you're the mom. So you can work on that, or you can just work on the feelings of guilt themselves, or any anchor to feel the feeling or the emotions that come along with it. And as you lessen it, that's what in the field and that sort of thing means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think one of our earliest sessions, we were working on guilt, and what I didn't expect, because one of the things that comes with Angelmans can be seizures. So it could be daily seizures, weekly. We just had one last night. But, we nearly lost Bowie. So this is the thing. Once your child gets diagnosed, and it's the worst thing you could ever think of as a parent, your worst fears come true. Because it is one of the worst things as a parent. And then what happens is you start looking for worse things to happen. You start looking for bad things to happen. And that's all you start to see. And I felt like every year we nearly lost Bowie. And the guilt compounded and things just keep going wrong. And then I think the final straw was when a teacher stepped back and stepped on Bowie and her leg got broken.
Oh, no.
I was absolutely beside myself. Now, I can only imagine how that poor teacher felt.
Right.
Bowie felt. And I felt. But I hung on to that for a good year. And my life was terrible. It was so bad. And I suddenly realized that all I was doing was perpetuating the guilt and the anger and the shame and the embarrassment and all the problems and all the victimization and the poor me. And I just went, you know what? I'm the only person holding myself and Bowie back here. She's going to keep having these things happen to her until I snap out of it. And life did get better.
It did. So you notice a marked difference from being caught in that and adding into it, compounding it and compounding the guilt further and further to now. What does it feel like to not have it so heavy, not have it as prevalent? What is that like in your life?
I will say it feels like having a choice. And that is the biggest freedom we can give ourselves. Is we talk about our children having choice and control. Special needs kids, once they can verbalize or communicate, will say, oh, I've got no control. I don't feel like I can say no to anything. I don't get a choice. We as parents feel like that too, that we have no control over their behavior, we have no control over them being diagnosed, and that we have no choice. And as suddenly as you let go of that belief that you've held on to, because the brain, it likes to feel safe. It likes to try new things, but it also likes to keep you safe. So, sticking to that belief is going to keep some sort of normality and safety. But once, I did the work with you, it was just phenomenal. It's like, I have a choice here, and Bowie has a choice. And her physical body is just taking off in terms of being mobility.
So what do you see in Bowie's future with mobility? I was going to ask if you could describe in just a brief, like, what is a day like in the life of Bowie Woods? What happens with Bowie in a typical day? She goes to regular school, correct?
She does. And look, I'll say this. She probably shouldn't. I'll be honest. Like she shouldn't. It's all fun. And look, as special needs parents will know this. However, if you've got a young one and you're insisting that they go to school, it's great in the early years. And I even remember someone saying this to me, a Down syndrome parent, saying it was great in the early years, but then once you get to 10 years, even 9 or 10 years of age, they go their separate ways. Going to mainstream school, the kids go their separate ways, and they're not interested in someone with special needs anymore. And the thing for Bowie is, she goes through the stage of blowing raspberries, grabbing her saliva, trying to wipe it on someone. She really, she's not using her iPad at the school at the moment. So she, she'll yell to get attention and communication. She wants to know what everybody else is doing. They're trying to do their work. They're 12 going on 13 years of age. They're going to middle school and high school. So she's, and as a parent, it is a mistake to have let her stay there. So sometimes you've really got to go, you can't say it should be inclusive if it's not good for the child, because she is lonely, and I know that because she hangs out with adults, and that's, you go to, I've been looking at special schools this week, and even the word special school is hard enough for a, parent to take on. And even then it's finding the right fit. I wanted more diversity in what the school is offering in terms of kids with different abilities. So, we found a school that has diverse abilities and that Bowie will fit into and can find her group of friends.
That must be really just a sigh of relief. And I could see, and if I'm, overstepping, but as you go through the school, because even I have children, and it's just what it is, right?
Yep.
And so now you're looking into special schools because you can see that, like, ooh, this isn't a fit. This really isn't. And to keep her in this really doesn't serve her, and it doesn't serve the school itself and the students and that sort of mainstream thing. So it's going to change. But up until now, a day in the life of Bowie Woods is, on a regular school day, she gets up and goes for half the day, and then is that how it goes, or it's a full day?
Oh, she can, well, it just depends on what happens. So she gets to school, and they will have music or PE or something like that. And she has a fabulous learning curriculum for her. So it's adapted. It's adapted for her, which is just incredible. And it really depends. Sometimes we'll get a phone call to say she's having an episode, which is really just saying she's having a seizure. So if she hasn't slept, now her seizures don't show up on an EEG, which is very common. It's from lack of sleep. Sleep is one of those things with these kids. We're lucky. She does sleep more than some Angelmans, maybe less than others.
How many hours of sleep does she usually sleep?
She can do 5 to 8. But then, you've got things like sleep apnea and mouth breathing.
Okay.
It could be a light sleep. So there's also, and it could be trouble going to sleep. And last night she did have a seizure as she dropped off and she jerked awake, and it becomes, her brain is trying to fire off. She seemed okay this morning. So I said I'll hang around and make sure that she's okay. So I sort of have to wait around.
They're a regular thing. Seizures are a regular thing in each week, almost. Or is it daily, or is it in each week, or it just depends on the cycle? Or you don't.
It depends on the cycle. It really, you can't pick it. You really can't. We're starting to notice some signs. You'll get very hyper behaviour. very hyper, can't settle. Some parents will say, oh, suddenly, there'll be a lot of arm flapping and talking and yelling and, emotional behavior going on. They were just saying there's a lot of drooling, and I think that's maybe because she's sucking her fingers because she's tired and she's trying to soothe herself. So you still have a lot of those toddler baby behaviors as well, which Bowie is not doing as much, just it reverts back when she's like that. So she'll go to school and she'll have a good time, and they always say, oh, she had a good day. She eats her lunch. She has her morning tea, which is normally like a breakfast, a full breakfast, and her lunch, and she has a good time. And when I pick her up, we usually get home and she's like, hey, comes to see Dad, and then we all get together on our bikes and go to what we call, it's a big field, it's an oval, and that's where we'll go and sort of regulate, play with the dogs, kick the ball, have a chat.
Yeah. So it sounds, I mean, really, she has a pretty full day, a pretty full life. As like you're saying, she's going to mainstream school right now. It'll change, but she's going. Like
She's going.
Yeah, yeah, and she's walking, right? Or is she when she's at school? And then
Yes, she walks.
okay, yeah. So it's there's a lot there. Like you said, she reverts back. So all of a sudden she could have a toddler behavior, which could be, like you said, like sticking, what did you call it, raspberries out and trying to stick them,
raspberries. Yeah.
or to paying attention and riding a horse. So there's such a you just don't know, right? It could
You
be.
get glimmers. You really get glimmers of, and I was really excited recently because in a million years I never thought I'd get a behavioural psychologist on board. And it's been one of the best things, besides cognitive movement, I must say, that I've done, because it's like, she's super smart. And this is what I want to advocate with Angelmans, is it's always been like, oh, they're brain damaged. Oh, there's this, that it's always been a misconception. And they are very, very smart, just in a different way to what our paradigm.
Right, not knowing facts and dates and history, and it's not that. It's human communication and interaction and identify, knowing animals are different things in life. Absolutely, and there's retention. And so it's not just somebody like, okay, set over here, here's your food, and I'll come back later, pick you up and move you over here. Where some people have that experience in their, care, but not at all like that. She's like you said, high functioning. Would you say that's inaccurate?
I guess, yeah, she is. She can
compared to what? Compared to what?
Yeah, compared to what? That's what I mean. It's like, it's a list of symptoms. It's Bowie being Bowie, and everyone's different, and every person is different too. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows, her going to school in those early years was the best thing, and it is the best thing up until now. And it's like anything in life is great until it's not, right? Yes. And so her going to regular school has been amazing for her to learn, and in some ways it's been fabulous. Her receptive language is incredible. Watching her peers has been incredible. She has been very happy, just until now when it's the tweens. And you could have a kid without Angelmans that is not going to be happy in those last moments of years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What has Bowie taught your family?
My dog is barking, sorry. What has Bowie taught our family? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
What is Bowie teaching?
A bit of patience for starters.
Right. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Honestly, and it's such a gift. And I don't say that as I'm trying to tell myself that, there's things you try to tell yourself in order to be positive. But if you can't feel it as your truth, it's not. But I genuinely am so grateful and so blessed, because it's really expanded my world, my horizons. Like, it just completely changed my life. And I'm like, is this what I was meant to be on this earth to do? And you know what? Up until diagnosis, I would never have considered that in a million years. Literally, blindsided me utterly.
Right. In that time, it's the worst thing ever. And then now you're saying there's a gratitude that this is what you're here. You're doing, you're
Yeah.
learning, and you get to be a part of it, as opposed to that, it's something that you are regretting.
She's the most amazing kid ever, and watching her grow. That noise is the dog walking through her pile of Lego. If you could see the house, you're just going to slip on Lego everywhere you go. So her growth and her maturity blows your mind, and it keeps you motivated. And last week I wasn't having a great time. Last week I was like, oh gosh, it's me. I've been a terrible mother. I've let her down. All the stuff every mother goes through, regardless.
Right. So you can have the shiny gratitude, but then you can get just to those moments too of this is so hard. And because I imagine it is also difficult maintaining all of the things that a toddler might do in a 12-year-old body. Well, as a 12-year-old, so you get both. You're getting 12-year-olds heading into puberty, perhaps, and then also still reverting back into toddler behaviors too, in many aspects.
Yes. And she's more curious and wanting to learn things, but at the same time, that's a boiling pot of water. And I'm like, just last night, I'm like, do I have to start fencing off the kitchen?
Because the stove.
Yeah, because you don't want to exclude your child, but you also want to keep them safe. And your eyes can't be everywhere. And that was one of the things, the goal with having her run is, and then what?
Right. She's not home all of a sudden.
I don't do running. So it is, you've got a 12-year-old tween with toddler behaviors in the body of a 90-year-old energy. And so you're trying to heal the physical body of its, issues, and get that energy up, that cellular energy, and change that, whilst getting the brain neurology back on. And just helping them make their way in the world. And to me, my goal is self-esteem. I don't really care what she can and can't do, as long as she has self-esteem and self-confidence. Right. Because it's all perspective, right?
Well, with that, you may or may not be doing this, but you did mention you may have her enter into the Paralympics. Is that still something horizon, or that's not? It's just something to talk about in the future.
We were watching the gymnastics, and she was very interested in that, which is funny because as a kid, all I wanted to be was a ribbon twirler. So. In the gymnastics, so we were watching that, and she's very interested in the wheelchairs, loves anything with wheels and motorbikes, and her stroller regulates her when she gets tired, and her stroller's almost like one of those ones they use in the Paralympics as well. So that is one of the things about Bowie, is there is a certain amount of fatigue. So, and you're always, it's a roller coaster. You're always going, do I need to get a diagnosis for that? Do I need to get that checked out? Or am I just over the top? I'm not one to rush off to doctors and hospitals and things. You soon learn that's not the path to go down for us.
Right, but you do have a team, because you have different people that help out. What are some things that you would say, looking back through the journey of this, would be really helpful if you knew then, that maybe you could help some parent in the future watching this who has just got the diagnosis, maybe some things, some gadgets, some, not necessarily like lifestyle stuff, but like some cool things that you found later on and you're like, man, this would have been really nice to have when it was here, or this. Is there any kind of cool things that you could suggest that maybe parents that are just starting this or in the middle of it may not know about?
I think that the only thing would be cogno movement, because that would have just been such a good shortcut. And it would have helped with getting Bowie to have tools for herself as well.
Right.
Because now she's the ball, she's like, oh no. Although I'm just suddenly being able to do it with her, with the eyes and the brain. I did spend, those first sort of 7-8 years, we did everything really, and it made a huge difference. I liked everything I did. I think I found cogno movement at the right time I needed, but I could have done with getting my nervous system regulated so I wasn't such a yelling, screaming mess.
Right, because like you're saying, the amount of just the amount of being on all the time, as well as being a regular human who has our regular stressors. You're going to have times where you just you might yell or whatever, and so cognitive movement has shifted that because it might still happen here and there, but for the most part your nervous system is regulated, and so your patience level is more vast, and reaction, and also not taking, like you said, the guilt and those sort of things that play into the way we react aren't necessarily there in the forefront as much as they were before. So if you would have, so you're saying at the very beginning, if you would have had it, it would be a whole different trajectory.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much fear because, you're constantly trying to keep your child safe, but then you end up reacting out of fear. And it just depends on what your reaction's like and what your nervous system is like. It's like how you react. And you can't see your stuff when you're in it either. So I would say don't be afraid to try everything and anything, no matter how out there it seems. Although, you do need to be discerning as well. But at the same time, cognitive movement's the only modality that really shifted the fear and the guilt, the shame, just the stress. If you've got other children as well, they need love and attention.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how hard that is. And that's a whole different dynamic and story, talking to somebody else with other kids.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So there's pros and cons, because then, you've got help, but then you've got to make sure that the other kids are looked after as well. So I think cognitive movement has really brought it back. When I first started cognitive movement, I was doing everything to check out. I was even working. Now everyone's like, well, you've got to work, but I couldn't, and it was so stressful. It caused so much anxiety for Bowie, so much stress on my husband. Because Bowie's has that high anxiety where she's like, oh well, the gang's not together. Where are they? Yeah, she likes us all to be together. So there's 2 hours waiting for mum to get home of sitting out the front, or looking out the blinds, and she does that with dad, waiting for dad too. So as soon as I realised and I cleared a lot of stuff and just felt good, and my brain was back online, I was like, I'm just trying to run away and do too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to do too much. I can't save the world. I can make our world better, but I can't save the world, and I can't rescue her, and I'm putting all this energy into other people. So I stopped going to work and traveling to work, and that made a huge difference. And saying that, I've come back, full circle, but in a moderate way, in a balanced way.
Right. And are there any any words of hope you would give to somebody also maybe entering the journey, or maybe they feel so stuck? Is there any hope to be offered with this diagnosis and what is possible?
Well, as Liz Larson says, anything is possible.
Mhm.
There's a world of possibilities. There is literally no such thing as can't. And that's from my favorite person, which is my mum. Like, she just, it was one of those things too. I always hated that. Now I'm like, oh, it's right. There's no such thing. Your children will be your greatest teacher. And I think that's someone else's famous quote as well. And I would definitely get in touch with yourself or any cognitive movement practitioner. I would talk to anybody about being the very best teacher for your children. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And that's all I can say is anything is possible. Whatever you believe and whatever you think in the most positive, outrageous way, you can make it happen if you want to.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, your children they are incredible. Bowie's incredible. It just blows my mind. Drives me nuts, but blows my mind.
Oh, I know, right? How is this possible? But thank goodness.
I know.
Would you say it's accurate that to not be afraid to try new things with your child? And we have a note. Can you move your face um, into the screen more? I suppose. You know what I could do is put you on. Let me put you pinned only. Let me go back to there. So, oh, closer. I think closer.
Oh, close. Oh, you want to see me close?
Yeah.
You'll probably see all those lines that special needs children give you.
There you go. Well, then you're real. So, but would you say it's accurate to not be afraid to try different going to the park, or like, not, if someone thinks they're so fragile, or I mean, we, as any parent, we all have our limits of what we think is safe and not safe. But is that something you would say, or not?
The park's probably not the best example. Playgrounds.
Right.
They can be. It's awesome. I think it depends on your family dynamics and your family and where your Angelman's child's at. But I would say one of the things I discovered, if I was really triggered by something and it made me angry and I was like, that is a load of rubbish. Oh my God, I'm not trying that. That's ridiculous. Then I should try it. Okay. Because it always turned out to be the best thing ever. And that's just, the way I grew up and my trauma speaking and my fear. And I found everything and anything has just worked. And it has just been incredible to recognize that Bowie can ride a horse.
And swim, right?
And swim. Oh, swimming. Amazing. And a lot of it is like kids will misbehave for their parents.
Right.
We all know that. That's what they do.
I do this, you do this, I do this. And there's no other world out there. There's no other possibility, because of course they're going to act like that in this situation. And then if you try it, you can, there's always, you have a choice. Like you said earlier, you have a choice.
Yeah. And that's why grandparents are important with children, because they'll do fun things with grandparents. Yeah. So, it's the dynamics. It's finding people, and read your child, take note of what they like doing. I mean, we all do, but I think every special needs parent is very adept at seeing the little things, of watching their children and seeing what they like and what they can do.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's universal, really, if we could pay attention to what they like instead of what we think they like. Yeah. But so, I mean, even more so, like you said, because you are hyper-focused, right? You're very hyper-focused because of safety at all times when you're with Bowie. What What would you say, besides cognitive movement, is something that is a resource that's available for people who are going through this, who have this? Are there resources that are available besides cognitive movement that you could recommend?
Gut health is really important. Nutrition is really important. Human garage. Okay, that's something that I have recently used and absolutely loved, and that's fascia release. It's gentle, it's easy. It's like cognitive movement. You can dip your toe in and see how it goes, and then once you start to feel your way in, that it's good, because it's all it goes with the neuroplasticity and the neuroscience that cognitive movement is, and changing it or opening up the brain pathways.
And so you're using fascial release maneuvers on Bowie from the Human Garage, and you're saying it's been a game changer. It's been really beneficial. Yeah.
It has.
Is there a specific one she loves?
The probably the weirdest one you feel like you're doing is mean, but it's a belly button talk, and it's actually it's a trauma release, but it goes, our belly button because that's where our cord is connected, right? And I suppose it pays to know a little. Well, you don't have to know much anatomy, but we've got a tube that goes from our mouth down to our belly button. We've also got fascia, and for people that don't know what fascia is, it's sort of like that white sheath that goes over the muscle. So if that is stretched or pulled or in different directions, it twists muscles, which then pull on bones and cause things to be out of alignment. And so it's really important, especially from birth, from being born. I'm trying to think of the right words. I should have had more water when I did this. She loves this move. So you put your hands on the front of the belly button and turn it clockwise, and then you actually put your hand on the back in the same space and turn it counterclockwise. Yes, so you're twisting, and they can bend over and bend back and bend sideways, and it's amazing for a sore lower back. But it also is a great
Human Garage on YouTube,
YouTube and Instagram. There is actually a parents' WhatsApp group, which is fabulous. Yeah, if you get onto YouTube and have a look, there's so many little short things that you can do quickly that have worked. I'm working on Bowie's foot with that. There's something called the barefoot sprinter, and so that's releasing the lower leg and the knees and the ankles. So that's actually has helped a lot with calcification she was getting on the side of her foot.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's gone down.
Movement. You're assisting the body in the movement of stagnant area, which, like you're saying, so it's that sounds, I think that's wonderful to share that with the audience, whoever sees this, because it isn't something most people hear about. But anytime you're getting a massage of any sort, you are getting your fascia moved, but it's not the same thing. This is a targeted, I know one of them's like you take your ear and you twist it, and there's different things, but you could find that. But Bowie responds to it and lets you do it, and doesn't she ask you sometimes to, or not ask you, but verbally, but she will take your hand and
she takes my hand and puts it there on the belly button. So, and I can tell by the way she's leaning, she won't sit down because she obviously gets a sore lower back and tight hips. And then she also asks for the one for concussion, is because these kids have a lot of brain injury and trauma, that
seizures too on a regular basis as well.
Yes, exactly. So there's a concussion set there, which I recommend to any parent, especially if you've had a C-section or your children have had a C-section, because it releases all this built up energy in there, and it is That's incredible. She loves that. She's always asking for that. And the jaw one. So there's a lot of easy ones to do. We used to do a lot of chiropractic, and she still enjoys that. However, this just fills in the gap. She loves massage. She's always asking for massage. And, while she's got sensory issues and she's going, she's still asking. Right. She knows what she needs.
Yeah. That's truly, I love, my favorite part of this interview or conversation with you is just just bringing it out, how much is going on behind the scenes in her mind and in her body, and how intelligent she really is. Whereas we can label someone or something as something and just leave it at that and think that that there isn't a lot happening. And with the speech and the pointing to, you know what I mean, just now being able to really expand that even more, because she's starting to come where she can show you on the typing thing what else is happening. And it's just amazing to me, because as I grew up, if someone were in a special needs class, it was labeled different. Then it was like, that was just that's it. It's who you are.
Yes.
Period. It doesn't have the unique person and whatever's going on, and not giving them the ability or the idea that they have a lot happening. They know way more than we give the credit for. So I love that.
Absolutely. And I think also with and I know this is one of my fears and that I've worked on, is once my child can speak and communicate, what's she going to say to me? So it's really important to make sure that you clear that pathway or that belief that, she's going to communicate, and especially when they're an only child. If you've got other children, you're probably used to being put in your place. When you're an only child.
It's the way it has always been, where you're telling Bowie, you and Dan are the parents, and so you're kind of the directors, right? And so as a child as a teen starts to tween, they start telling you, it is. I could see how that could be. Absolutely. And then, but it's just beautiful how your perspective of it, because it's like, it's going to come, but you're going to allow it, as opposed to you're real. Yes, it might feel a little unknown, but I know that when it happens, it's exactly what needs to happen, and it's just going to open a whole new pathway for all of us. So
absolutely, it means you can have conversations. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Well, Tia, are there any other things you'd like to add in before we conclude this beautiful conversation today?
Oh, just thank you for inviting me on. It is it's an absolute pleasure. I love it. And I just wish every special needs parent, all abilities parents, any parents, all the love and happiness that children bring us. It's a whole new generation, a whole new world of learning out there for everybody. So, and thank you so much for inviting me on.
It's true. Thank you, Tia, so much. And thank you for being here. And this conversation will be on this platform. And if, perhaps someone in the future will gain a little hope, or maybe a little insight, or a little more patience, or something just knowing that they're not alone. Truly,
Yes.
I think that's the biggest thing in our lives, is I'm not alone. And it is hard, and it is fun, and it is, it's all of it. It's all of it. And just thank you for sharing in the vulnerable way that you did, the reality of it. And from birth to now, from 18 months to now. And I look forward to seeing how Bowie evolves, what happens.
Yeah, get back to me after the teenage years are finished.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do the interview too now. Yeah, so thank you very much, Tia. We do have one person, well, I don't even need to say that, but are there any questions in the audience for Tia from this interview, or we will call it a wrap at that? So if you have a question, you can simply raise your hand and we'll bring you on, or you can put it in the chat and we'll just give it a minute or so. Yeah. Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Tia, for joining me in this beautiful community, conscious creation community, and just being here to illuminate what is possible. So, have a beautiful rest of your day in Australia, and
Yes.
I will see you in here
Thank
and
you. Bye,
elsewhere.
Coral.
Bye. And thank you to everyone who came. All right.